Stephanie Doolittle from Louisiana DOT chairs the bridge inspection, the Southeast Regional BIPM working group. And the one thing I wanted to clarify, the inspection program managers working groups were set up for the inspection program managers. One of the reasons was they could see, this probably started about 2 years ago or maybe 3 almost now, but they knew that there were changes in the rules coming. Everybody's known that for a while. They are now here, as you keep hearing about the NBIS new rules and this SNBI. And so while most of the working groups, everybody's welcome to do things, this is a group that they've kind of tried to just keep to the inspection program managers so they can have a really good interactive discussion. Now, if there's a reason that someone wants to join, or if you have something that you think would be really interesting to the group, you can always reach out to them. But that is I wanted to make that point. Stephanie just brought it up, and I thought, yeah, I hadn't thought about that for a while. But that they really would like to keep it to the point where they can have some really good discussion and benefit and share ideas. And so with that, Stephanie's going to tell you more.
Hi. So I took over as chair on the program managers call when Richard Huether retired around July, August last year, kind of right before our last SEBPP meeting. And so some of the topics we've talked about since I started have been SNBI. So we talked about SNBI before the SEBPP for the panel discussion, like ramping up for that. And then after, we kind of filled in the people who couldn't make it to the last year's conference and let them know what we talked about and what the other panel, what the collectors had talked about. And then we talked a little about Scour, how's everybody doing Scour, and then SNBI Scour, we had a whole meeting on just SNBI Scour. And lately we've talked about culvert inspections, UT testing of pins, how the state program, inspection programs are set up. We sent everybody org charts to each other and kind of talked about that. And we sent out a survey last year and just kind of how's everybody set up. Are you using more consultant inspection? Are you doing more in-house inspection? You know, just a little checklist for everybody to say, is somebody doing it better than me? You know, do I like the way they're doing it? And then what else? So the last time we talked about the submittal, because we'd all just made the submittal in March. And so we just said, how'd that go? Does anybody have any PCAs they're working on or anything they want to talk about with that? And so that was a good discussion. But we typically have a pretty good group. Like we have 9 or 10 on almost every call, program managers, and it's usually a pretty lively discussion, and every month we poll for the next month. So next month's meeting is April 25th, and we're going to talk about a recap of this meeting for the people who didn't make it. So if you're here, but you gave a presentation, I'd still like you to come to the meeting so you can kind of recap a little bit more about what you said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you can kind of recap your presentation a little bit, and for the people who weren't here. But anybody who has any questions, I want to thank Andy Nanneman and Mark Wallace, who are the co-chair and take the minutes, and then Nancy and Darlene, who set up the meetings every month and kind of helped me get them started and finish them up too. But if anybody has questions about some of the stuff we discussed, or if anybody missed a meeting and just wanted some more information on it, just let me know. Or if you're not getting the emails, let me or Nancy or Darlene know, if you're a program manager and you want to sit on a call. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll let you keep that microphone for now. And now it's your turn to ask questions, to provide any feedback that you would like to any of them. We have heard a number of different ideas and thoughts, things they're working on. Okay, don't everybody speak at once.
So,
go ahead. I'm going to let Dick
I'll
ask a question.
For about ancillary structures. Are they covered in your group? Are you guys talking about them, or?
We haven't talked about them very much, but we do poll every time. I don't know if they can hear me. We do ask every time. Has it come up very much? We haven't had a big discussion, at least since I've been on the call. Since I've been in this position, we haven't talked about ancillaries very much, but if all the other program managers are interested, we could bring it up.
Thanks, I was just wondering.
Okay, so, Kyle's got a, okay.
So, I'm Kyle with Foscrete. I'm involved with two of the working groups up there, the local agency and the ITD, and it was interesting listening to the codings one, and I was wondering, do you guys think it would be a good idea? I can see a lot of overlap and synergy between the working groups to have maybe the leaders of each working group get together every so often and see how you guys can complement each other and, help your efforts, because there's, for the ITD, for example, with the codings, we have a company called Galvatech that might be a good addition to that. So, again, do you think it's a good idea to kind of coordinate and see if you guys can marry your efforts a little bit?
No, I agree with that. I mean, what's the name of the organization, right? Bridge Preservation, and all of it plays a part. They all overlap with respects to, from steel restoration to painting to concrete repairs. It's all for one goal and one reason, right? To preserve that structure and keep it as long as we possibly can. So I think that's a great idea.
I agree, and I can tell you that it's happening a little bit. So earlier in the day, Stephen Austin and Tim Sherrill, who is here now, thanks Tim, they talked about the fact that one of the things the construction group is working on right now is overlays, which obviously is our decks, right? And so, but they have kind of overlap. They've had a little bit of discussion and how they can share information and try not to do the same things, and so that we're not duplicating things, but then obviously share the information. So actually we all overlap to some degree, right? But I think that it's a really good idea. I'm going to ask a question basically for all of you, and including Stephen and Tim over there. What do you feel like, and Tony touched on this a little bit, on what their challenges are. They're a new group, they're getting reorganized. Obviously the makeup is a little bit different than it used to be because people retire, and that's just a constant. I can tell you that the coatings group they're full of energy, and they have some really good ideas, and they've got some really good leadership, and very knowledgeable people that are involved. But he talked about a few of the challenges that they are facing with making sure that they have enough owner, whether that's DOT, it could be local agencies, but bridge owner participation rather than just industry. Right now there's a few more industry, it's a little industry heavy, so they'd like to have more DOT people involved. And so if all of you that are out here, if you or someone else that isn't here that you think would be really interested or a great asset to that team, we'd love to have you share that with us. Go back to them, ask them first if you feel you need to do that, or you can just throw them under the bus a little bit. But so that's one of the challenges that they have. Do you have any other ones you'd like to share, Tony?
No, I mean, not really, but I mean, if you think about it, all the DOTs that are here, you're the driving force. We can sit as consultants, we can sit as manufacturers, and we can talk all day about, what's working, what's not, what our different states are doing. But without DOTs as part of any of these working groups, right? You're the driving force. You're the ones that are going to say, yeah, let's try that, or no, we've done that, or whatever. So it is important, very important, that there's involvement. And going back to the different parts, right? I've always said this about paint. In order for a paint system to work, your deck has to be in great shape. The joints aren't going to be leaking. They have to have good joints, good deck. All that is part of the protection of that steel structure. So all these things play a part, but again, it's the driving force of the owners that really is going to make, in a sense, or break these working groups and where we go and where we end up.
So,
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say too, group, I said earlier today that we kind of had trouble at the beginning, kind of figure out our direction and what to do. We knew it was something that needed to be done. We didn't know exactly what to do, but I found that a little bit. But, one thing to say is that we may have our own ideas, but somebody may have a particular issue construction quality wise that's like, we always have this. We've rewritten that. We can't seem to get it fixed. I would suggest, give me a call or an email or Dick or Fawad or whatever. Of course, we would love to have more participation, but just because you give us an idea doesn't mean we're going to make you follow through with it, okay? It doesn't mean if you raise your hand, we're going to call you on you. It means ideas,
Yeah, I was wondering how closely you're working with academia. A lot of the DOTs, I know they work with the local universities. If the university needs products, we can supply them. How do we get to that? To do that, to work with academia and the DOT to provide a better solution.
I'm not 100% sure if I followed you or not. We have academia. Are you talking about ITD?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, ITD.
I can say that I'll let you answer it.
So the academia on the ITD would work as a consultant as well. So one of the main advantages is that if we have a good communication between the industry and the DOT, the industry is able to tweak the chemistry of the product or to do some changes to better fulfill a need of a DOT. So the academia plays an important role for us on the ITD because they can be the local consultant. So if you're doing a project in Georgia, for example, it makes more sense to have an university in Georgia doing the study of the product being applied, then bring a consultant from another state. It's not only less expensive for the industry because we are the ones paying for the consultant, but also it's a way to have the local universities working with the DOTs and the industry to find a better solution.
I was going to just say on an overall level, all of the partnerships have an academic director. And so we work with the academia in that regard too, but thank you. Other challenges, like what do you think is your biggest challenge? I don't know if Todd, if you know with the local agency, or Kyle, maybe if you have any thoughts about local agencies and what their biggest challenges might be.
The leader of the working group there, but I think the biggest challenge that I kind of see is that, we do a really good job of giving the initial hour-and-a-half presentation that talks about preservation as a whole, but the goal that we're trying to get to is to do more hands-on, on-site training, and it hasn't really led to that second step. So, when you guys asked how many local people were here today, I think there was 3 or 4. So I think finding ways to get more local people to attend these meetings and then, again, following up on specific training that they need is going to be tremendously helpful, and that can all trickle down from the other working groups to local agency. But I think we're good at getting the message out, but we're not good at following through with the training.
Okay, thank you.
I have a little interesting situation. You want innovation, but how can it work with the DOT? And this might be something that the Bridge Preservation Committee can work on, is how industry and innovation comes from mainly smaller companies and this type of thing. It's very difficult for a very small company with full innovation, without branding, to be able to come in and help DOTs. And I think if you're on the start of something very, very big, but I think the Bridge Preservation Committee could probably take a real major role in this area with the Department of Highways and this type of situation of being a friendly program to innovation with the smaller companies. Because the smaller companies, that's all they have is innovation, because they don't have branding. And you want innovation. And so I think if there's a way that you might look at all your organizations or committees to be able to have what I would call a screening type or some type of a friendly word out there to the innovation community of technology. And I think this is how things could really help, because I can tell you from our position, we're a small company, but a DOT took us under their arm and brought us to the market, because I didn't know what a bridge was except I drove on them. And I've learned so much about bridges, and I'm here learning so much about bridges. And these are the kind of things I think could really benefit the whole DOT area. And you might have some ideas on how to do that.
I'll let Mario talk about that a little bit, and that is a big reason why we started the ITD program, because that is that's pretty specifically what they try and do, is to give someone with an innovative idea a place to maybe say, hey, we have this idea, we think this will work. There's an application process so that they understand what's going on, but that is an avenue. Another avenue is exactly what you're saying. It's being right here, right now, and we have a lot of DOT and other bridge owners that are here that you can talk to and talk about what you're doing and what your product is. But it's a very good point. It's a very good point. It's a challenge always, and DOTs are inherently conservative, and we don't want to try anything unless it's been, tried, tested, somebody else has used it with success for 40 years or something, right? Maybe a little exaggeration, but it's very challenging. But we know that we need innovation. That's what he was just talking about, right? We know we need it, but how do you do it without minimize the risks, right? And so that is one of the ways that the ITD group is working with. And so I think that, I don't know if you want to add anything, Mario, or? Sure. Okay.
And you have a great point. Specifically, just to give our example, we have been in the bridge industry globally for many years, but not as strong in the United States. Then in 2019, we were talking with Huether from Louisiana, and she was the one who mentioned about the ITD. And we thought, well, that's great, because the main challenge that we had as a company was when we talk with the ITD, when we talk with the DOT, we try to explain that we fly as they see us as a fish, but we fly. So they don't understand what category would be a bird that is also a fish, that's also a mammal. So, and that's the reality for many of the ITD products. So I think what was very important for us, and it's also a challenge, particularly in the United States, is that in a lot of the markets overseas, you go to the capital, you talk with a group of 10 people, you present your technology, either you're approved or you're not approved, and then the entire country is allowed to buy your material. In the United States, there are 50 states, there are hundreds of counties, so we have to talk with 50,000 people in order to accomplish the same thing that in Europe or in South America or in Asia, we would have to talk with, 3 guys. So it is very challenging here, and the more I learn about the DOTs, the more I understand that I don't know anything at all. So the more, sometimes I talk with someone that has been selling for the DOT industry for 20 years, and the answer is always, it depends. So if you're trying this in the East Coast, that's going to work for this state, but not for the other state. So, and I was very surprised back in 2016, I had New Jersey was buying our material, and I was having a presentation with New York DOT, New York State DOT, and I thought, well, it's going to be a good idea to mention that we're selling to New Jersey. And I was extremely surprised that the answer was not at all. It was like, well, we just don't care. And I thought, well, so it is challenging. I think the ITD is a great opportunity for not only small companies, but also medium or large companies. It is a great way to talk with some agencies and explain what we have. And what's very interesting is that the more we talk with the agencies, we might be able to tweak the product or the chemistry or the application methods to do it in a way that's going to be helpful for them, which is the main goal. So if we put everything together, I think one of the treasures of the ITD is exactly to get a consultant that's a third party, so this person is there to give a really unbiased report of what's going on. You have the DOT that's the one that's looking for a solution. Often a lot of the DOTs, they want to use something new, but they just either they don't know or they don't know how to buy or they don't want to be the first ones. There's always some type of objection. So the ITD is a great solution for that. There's still a lot of work to do. We try to have new ideas. We try to have more agencies on board. It's always challenging because I'm sure a lot of you guys have meetings, the first Wednesday of the month with someone, the second Wednesday of the month with somebody else, the third Thursday. I know that Darlene and Nancy, their schedules like that. There's always something on their schedule. So I know that's challenging to get 1 hour of your day to join a new work group. But when we're talking about, I mentioned on my slides, there are going to be over 500,000 bridges 50 years or older in a few years. So 500,000 bridges, we need to use newer and better and longer-lasting technology. We cannot not keep using whatever we have been using for a long time. So to answer your question, the ITD is a great way for industry and DOTs to find newer technologies.
So this is kind of a follow-up to what you were just saying, and a problem we've been running into in Virginia a little bit, even within our own state. Is anybody trying to put together a database of what the states are trying to do? This gentleman told me he was working with California. They've already put examples out there. We're having a problem in Virginia where we've tried stuff. The people that tried it are retiring, and there's just no record of it. So we've got stuff that's been out there for 40 years that's worked, and then they retire, and that's gone.
So that, I don't know if, I think Stephen touched on it earlier, the Bridge Product Database was something that we were working to put together. It's kind of stagnated. They are discussing whether that should be an option, but what the database, I don't know, I don't want to restate things that he said, but basically it's a database of products that are out there. And then the people that have used it, the owners, can go in and they can say, find the product, say, yes, I have used this, and in very, we don't want to say, oh, it sucked or something, or it was marvelous, it was the best thing ever. You want to know why, right? So where did you use it? How much traffic, or, the general, why did you use it there, and how did it perform? And if you have feedback that you can give, like, yeah, we probably should use it, it's kind of expensive, so you might want to just reserve it for your, but you can add some feedback there, and you can put some contact information in there. Now, that is a little challenging if you have people leave, but if you're a Virginia DOT and someone puts it in there and they know that Virginia DOT has used it, maybe they can find it. So that is one option, and if you think if that seems like what you are you talking about specific products, or are you talking about?
Yes, specific products or specific techniques that people are using. Yeah, I think it could go across the board. I mean, even you're just saying just even in trying it, but like the Virginia Transportation Research Council is doing major projects all the time, and I'll go to do something, and somebody will just tell me, oh, well, that was researched 15 years ago, and they'll go pull out a research paper out of the library, but there's no way to just find that easily.
Always a challenge, right? That's one of the reasons that we try to collaborate more and more, is so that we can share that information so it doesn't just get lost. Whether it's research that's been done, other information that's out there, so-and-so's tried it, or they've done this, or they've done that. So those challenges are ongoing, but the more we share, think about that a little bit more, and maybe we can discuss some possible ways that we could do that. Maybe with something beyond just a database, maybe with, of products, but maybe with some additional good thoughts.
So we're going to end this one here. Let's give a round of applause for the folks that were up here. And then I have one.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.